and the carriage we pretended wasn't there. Luxury trains are built on misdirection. You think you're moving through the country. Really, the whole country is being dragged past your window like a patient lie. I should know. I'm the security manager on the Aurora line, 3 nights from Budapest to Paris with a salon car, a pianist who can play quiet enough to make a billionaire confess, and a staff that smiles as if secrets are part of the fare. I'm Adam, 35. Ex-military if you believe rumors, ex-nothing if you ask my mother. My job is to keep people from learning that a locked door is only a suggestion. On the morning we left Calais, a storm crouched over the city like a thought someone didn't finish. We boarded early passengers, diplomats who preferred tuxedos to passports, a novelist who believed anonymity is a hat, an influencer whose luggage had more opinions than her manager. The last to arrive was Minister Helena Varga, the face of a European anti-corruption task force, and the reason a certain set of rich men had recently started chewing their food slower. She wore a navy coat and an expression that made detours move out of her way. In her wake floated a man I recognized from posters and gossip, Leon Devereux, a countertenor whose voice could make your reflection apologize. He carried nothing and everything. They didn't look at each other. That's how you know. The Aurora has 13 cars, kitchen, 2 dining, 3 sleepers for the rich, 4 for the less rich, a salon, a staff car, and the luggage van. Officially. There's also a narrow service carriage between the staff car and luggage, a sliver of corridor and a locked cabin we use for equipment that hates passengers. Unofficially, it's where quiet happens. We pulled out with the ritual whistle and the slow elastics of steel learning exertion. My team did the usual, patrolled vestibules, watched for hands that wanted to be more than hands, pretended not to see men practicing adultery with their eyes. I made my first round past the salon at noon. Leon was at the piano without touching it. Helena stood at the window with her hands behind her back like a woman listening for good news she planned to deny. A waiter asked if I wanted coffee. I said no because my job is to keep my heart rate predictable. Half an hour into Slovakia, the conductor pinged me. "We need you in the office," he said, tone that means do not bring anybody who breathes loud. Our office is the size of a generous coffin. On the desk, a sealed courier bag split open like a fish. Inside, a brochure, except not a brochure, a manifesto. 10 pages of polite outrage and ugly names. It belonged to the minister. It detailed a cross-border shell game that would make a judge cry into his sleeve. It was supposed to be presented in Vienna in 3 days, with television and flags. The courier seal said this was a second copy, placed aboard for safety. The zipper track had been cut with something precise. "The bag was in her compartment when we left," the conductor said. "Her chief of staff put it under the seat. 2 hours later she asked for it. This is how it looks now." "Who touched the room?" I asked. "Her staffer, the attendant, the minister, and God," he said. "And you if I hand it to you." "Don't," I said. "Take it back. Tell her I'm coming to apologize in person." Helena accepted my apology with a nod weighted like a medal. "I don't care about the bag," she said. "I care about its contents traveling safely to Vienna by any means other than public cloud. I care about your train being a shipwreck without witnesses." "You suspect someone aboard," I said. "I suspect everyone," she said, "including myself twice." She gestured to the couch. Her staffer, Marta, calico scarf, the exhausted grace of a person who feeds a machine all day, looked like she wanted to offer me a seat and an alibi. I stood. "Did you photograph it?" I asked. "We never photograph sensitive documents," Helena said. "That way we can say never with honesty." "Who knew it was here?" "People who can recognize risk wearing a coat," she said. My office, the embassy, the people screaming in my inbox with money. Leon appeared in the doorway without knocking, the way famous people do when walls help them. "We're stopping in Gyre," he asked, then saw the bag and amended. "Ah, a rehearsal." "We are not stopping," Helena said. "We are evaluating." He leaned against the jamb. "Do you need patriotism or silence? I'm better at the second." "Leave," she said, and he did. But the air remembered his cologne, a white flower trying to be disciplined. I told Helena I'd lock the service carriage. I told her I'd post a man in the vestibule. I told her many small, true things, then went to the staff car for the untrue big one. I would find the person who had taken her paper and replace it with the same paper before we crossed the Austrian border. That was not my job. That was a story I wanted to be in. At 2, the pianist tested our old Bechstein with a motif that sounded like apology. At 3, a message flickered across the private crew channel on my phone. Blue switch. West coupling. 15. 10. We don't use color codes on this line. We use numbers and location and the occasional desperate prayer. Blue suggested a hand that had worked in places where secret is a job title. I went to the west coupling, the joint between the service carriage and the luggage van, at 15:08 and leaned on the rail like a man who enjoys mechanical romance. The river ran the other way. The country admitted trees, footsteps. Leon. He came up behind me and looked past my shoulder at the disappeared distance. "If I tell you something," he said, "do you hand me to a government?" "I hand everyone to a door," I said. "They can walk or not." He smiled small. "Her bag is not missing," he said. "It is traded." "For what?" I asked. "Time," he said, "and a promise that will not hold when the train stops." He pulled a folded paper from his jacket, the way magicians produce a scarf you forgot was yours. He unfolded it. The same manifesto, but 2 pages were mirror images. Left justified text where it should curve right, footnotes transposed like a sloppy romance. "Copies make confessions," he said. "You?" I asked. "If I had wanted it," he said, "I would have sung for it. Someone else prefers scissors." I looked at his face the way I look at doors, for hinges. "Why tell me?" "Because she will hate you for an hour and trust you after," he said. "Because I am not the type of man she should trust on purpose." "Are you using her?" I asked. "I'm using a train," he said. "It moves and I don't have to." The service carriage has a door some staff forget to lock because it sees so little and speaks less. Inside, crates, linen, a boiler that sighs like an actor, and a narrow cabin with a desk and a window that frames fields like a painting you could sell twice. On the desk, a small camera. On the camera, a cable. On the cable, nothing human. I placed my hand on the wood and felt warmth where there shouldn't be any. Someone had been here recently, thinking. I shut the door softly. In the corridor, a shadow detached itself from a shadow. "Marta." "I didn't know where else to go," she said. "She will break me if I bring her another calm sentence." "Then tell me the frantic one," I said. "I sent a text I shouldn't have," she said. "I told a colleague we had the document aboard because she was worried Vienna would leak. I wanted her to be less afraid. I wanted to feel clever. She's on a secure app. I used autocorrect like an idiot." "You told her the carriage number," I said. Her breath hitched. "She's kind, she wouldn't." "Kind is a hobby," I said. "Leverage is employment." We heard voices at the far end of the corridor. A woman laughing in a way that had been practiced. Another voice, male, older, saying, "5 minutes." I pulled Marta into a broom closet with a map's worth of old dust and told her to count to 7 the way people do in fairy tales. Through the crack of the door, Nika slid past. a consultant who lives on trains and has a face like an invitation. She sells image and insight and always smells like either grapefruit or good news. With her, Anton Paul, an energy magnate whose last name is a synonym for install cameras. They didn't see us. They went into the cabin and closed the door. We counted silently to 50, then I sent Marta away with orders to pretend to need ice. I stood alone in the corridor and thought about doors. I thought about small cameras and big problems. I thought about the way Helena had said everyone and meant it. At dinner, the train performed elegance. Candles stayed vertical. Soup behaved like a lake. Helena entered late, her coat a declaration, her mouth a weapon she kept sheathed for 5 minutes before drawing. Leon was already there with a seat that was not next to hers but could touch it if an argument asked politely. Nika and Anton sat with a view of themselves in the window. The novelist stared at his napkin like it might publish him. I did what I do when a room wants to combust. Stand where flame would run if it got drunk and watch. The waiter poured wine. Conversation became strings and knives. Nika complimented the lamb as if she had invented it. Anton told a story about a power plant that sounded like a confession wearing cologne. Helena ate like an athlete and a judge. Leon pretended not to know a camera was pointed at his mouth. I slipped out and went to the service carriage. The camera was gone. The desk was not. Under the desk, where wood meets floor, a small crescent of tape glowed when I angled my phone's light, a marker to show where to place a thing so it sees without looking. I peeled it off. The adhesive stuck like a half-finished thought. Back in the salon, the pianist had switched to something that sounded like a train apologizing to its tracks. Helena stepped out to the vestibule between cars, the little glass box that likes to collect regrets. I followed at a respectful distance and waited until she noticed the respect. "Tell me what you found," she said, eyes on darkness. "An empty camera, a place it liked to sit," I said. "A page that doesn't match its twin. A consultant who wants to be paid twice. A singer who would rather tell the truth if only because he's bored." She looked at my tie pin like it might answer for me. "And what did you choose?" "I haven't yet," I said. "I can pull a fire alarm everyone will believably deny. I can call a border police unit that will make us late and correct. Or I can move your document to a place where people forget to look." "What place is that?" she asked. "On someone's skin," I said. She turned to me then, the car's dim bulbs turning her eyes to coin metal. "You want me to memorize 10 pages?" "No," I said. "I want you to memorize the part they can't counterfeit, the paragraph where you choose your own sentence structure, and I want the rest in the lining of your dress until Vienna." She smiled like I had offered her a meal when she'd asked for a napkin. "You unnerve me, Mr. Security." "Good," I said. "Nerves work." I didn't undress a minister. I'm not an idiot. Marta appeared the way useful people do when the plot requires it, sewing kit appearing from air. We unstitched the hem, slid the manifesto in 2 slips where stiffening might go, and resealed it with thread that promised decency. Helena watched without moving, an act of trust or theater or both. When she straightened, she was carrying a country and pretending it was silk. We still had a mole. We still had a camera that wanted to be anywhere it was. We still had a singer who knew more than he should and a consultant who liked velvet doors. So I did the one thing I am both good at and ashamed of. I made another room appear. The service carriage has a maintenance hatch that opens onto a narrow ledge an adult could walk if he had the arrogance of a problem. I told myself not to. I did anyway, because arrogance and problems get along. At midnight, while the aurora sliced Austria into strips of black and pale, I stepped out with a metal case and clipped it under the ledge in view of the place the camera had wanted to sit. Inside the case, nothing except 5 inches of wire and a blinking red lie. At 00:17, someone came. A slim figure, efficient like a check mark. Nika. She reached under the desk, found the case, and smiled the way people smile when they pick up something expensive they didn't pay for. When she opened it and found theater, she didn't curse. She took the wire anyway and left as if moving emptiness could count. I was waiting in the corridor. "Bad harvest?" I asked. She didn't jump. "Only men assume surprise improves a conversation," she said. "Tell Anton I like his taste in hobbies," I said. "Tell the minister I like hers in men," she said, and eyed the vestibule where, through glass, Helena and Leon were two silhouettes sharing either a strategy or a breath. Nika's mouth did a knot smile. "You can't protect a train from its passengers," she said. "You can only choose which windows fog." When Helena came back to the salon, we were almost to Vienna. The world had decided to be a city again. She passed me and for the briefest beat placed her hand flat on my chest like a test. "Still there?" she asked. "Still," I said, and the word held more than my pulse. We rolled in without incident. Police performed visibility and then bored away. Helena descended with a coat that could lead a parade and disappeared into a convoy of significance. Leon stayed. He had 2 more nights to Paris and a voice that would make the corridor forget what it was for. He found me by the piano later, after the new passengers had replaced old ones and the air smelled like a different set of mistakes. "You were right," he said. "She hates you a little and trusts you more." "I'll live," I said. "Will you?" he asked. "You look like someone who takes the long way around his own life." "Occupational hazard," I said. He set his hand on the piano lid, not playing. "If I ask you for the room between cars, will you give it to me?" "No," I said. "Even if I ask nicely?" "Especially then," I said. He laughed, then looked toward the window where land kept its private conversation with speed. "We are all always arriving somewhere we can pretend is a choice," he said. The second night was rain. The third was clear. Somewhere west of Stuttgart, the novelist sold me a book with his signature as if it were a bribe. In the staff car, Marta slept with her scarf pulled over her eyes like a child. Nika disembarked in Strasbourg with a wave that promised a future I intend to miss. Anton called someone named Fixer and said words that will eventually require additional words. When we reached Paris, a message from Vienna waited in my inbox with the subject line "Delivered." A photo, Helena at a podium, fingers on paper, a room forgetting for an hour to practice doubt. The manifesto lived. It would die in committee later, probably, the way brave things do. But the paragraph she had kept in her mouth sounded like a promise biting into a peach. Before he left, Leon found me at the platform. He didn't say thank you. He said, "You make doors exist." "I lock them mostly," I said. "Same difference," he said, and leaned in just enough that I could smell the white flour he pretended wasn't on purpose. "Tell me if I become a hobby you can't afford." "I will," I said. He stepped back. "Still there?" he asked softly, and for a second I was a city trying to be a man. "Still," I said, and watched him walk into a Paris that never ends, carrying nothing, as if emptiness were the easiest luggage. On my way back through the train, I paused in the service carriage and looked at the desk where the camera had liked to live. The window framed a field pretending to be finished. The rail hummed. I peeled the last of the crescent tape off the wood and stuck it to the inside of my watchband like a private weather report. You can't protect a train from its passengers. You can only decide which carriages you pretend aren't there and stand in the corridor, honest, while the country changes its mind around you.